The chamber of the Galactic Council was not built for silence. It was built for grandeur, 700 seats arranged in a perfect spiral, each one filled by a delegate from a civilization old enough to have watched stars collapse and be reborn. The ceiling stretched 300 meters above, carved from a single slab of Vorthian crystal that caught the light of 6 artificial suns and scattered it into colors no human eye had ever been designed to see. Every surface hummed with the quiet authority of 10,000 years of interstellar governance. But tonight, the chamber was silent. Not the comfortable silence of deliberation. Not the respectful silence of ceremony. This was the silence of fear, the kind that settles over a crowd when someone has said something so catastrophic, so irreversible, that every living creature in the room simply stops. High Chancellor Kaelzer stood at the central dais, his 4 long fingers pressed flat against the obsidian surface, his pale blue skin drained to something closer to white. His secondary eyelids, the ones his species only closed when truly afraid, were half shut. Across from him, in the single chair reserved for non-member planetary representatives, sat Ambassador Darian Voss. He was drinking coffee. He had brought it himself, in a battered thermos with a scratched logo of a football team from a planet that the rest of the galaxy had only been aware of for 11 years. He poured a cup, took a slow sip, and waited. Ambassador Voss, Kaelzer finally said, his translator implant rendering the words in careful, measured tones. I want to make absolutely certain that I have understood you correctly. Take your time, Darian said. You are telling this council. Kaelzer paused, visibly collecting himself. That the Dravak Dominion, a civilization with 400 warships, a standing military of 900 million soldiers, and a history of 12 successful planetary subjugations, attacked a human colony. They did, Darian confirmed. Kepler's reach. Population of about 60,000. Mostly miners. Some farmers. A medical research station. And you are further telling us, Kaelzer continued, his voice dropping lower, that the Dravak Dominion no longer exists. Darian took another sip of coffee. Correct. The silence returned. Then, all at once, it shattered. 700 delegates erupted simultaneously, clicking, whistling, roaring, vibrating, and broadcasting in 43 different languages. The Galactic Council had not seen chaos like this since the Fracture Wars, and even then, Kaelzer had managed to maintain some semblance of order. He slammed his fist against the dais. The impact sent a resonance wave through the floor that physically vibrated the seats of every delegate in the chamber. They quieted, not from respect, but from shock. How, Kaelzer said, very slowly, is that possible? Darian set down his thermos. He folded his hands on the table in front of him and looked at the High Chancellor with the calm, direct expression of a man who had rehearsed this conversation many times and still hadn't quite decided how to feel about it. Chancellor, I want to give you an honest answer, he said. But I need you to understand something first. Humanity spent the first 100,000 years of its existence on a single planet. One world. No allies. No galactic community. No one to call for help. He paused. Every threat we ever survived, we survived alone. Every predator that tried to kill us, we killed back. Every disease, every famine, every ice age, every asteroid. We solved it or we died, and the ones who died didn't get to pass their lessons on. Kaelzer stared at him. What is your point, Ambassador? My point, Darian said, is that humanity has been preparing for something like the Dravak Dominion for a very, very long time. We just didn't know what to call it yet. A delegate from the Sulhuri Collective, a species of photosynthetic hive minds who communicated in bursts of bioluminescent light, flashed a rapid pattern that the translator rendered as, the Dravak had 400 warships. Where are they now? Darian glanced toward the light. Debris fields. Mostly in the Kepler system. Some of it made it as far as the outer reach before we finished the engagement. He considered for a moment. We're actually using some of the metal to rebuild the colony. Seemed efficient. The chamber erupted again. This time, Kael'zer did not try to stop it. He stood very still at the dais and looked at the human ambassador, this unremarkable-looking creature in a dark suit, with 2 eyes and 10 fingers and a warm beverage, and felt something he had not felt in his 312 years of political service. He felt small. "Ambassador Voss," he said, when the noise had subsided to a dull roar. The Dravak Dominion initiated their first campaign 1200 years ago. They have never been defeated in open battle. Not once. Not by anyone. He leaned forward. They had 400 warships. How many did humanity deploy? Darian reached into his jacket pocket and produced a small tablet. He tapped it twice, scrolled briefly, and looked up. 17, he said. The number landed like a stone dropped into still water. Rings of silence expanded outward from the dais, swallowing the chamber 1 row at a time. 17, Kael'zer repeated. The Dominion hit Kepler's reach on a Tuesday, Darian said. Which was inconvenient, because our primary fleet was running exercises in the Vega system. So the Regional Defense Force responded first. 12 vessels. They held the line for about 6 hours while reinforcements arrived. He paused. The other 5 ships were enough to finish it. Kael'zer straightened slowly. Behind him, he could feel the collective weight of 700 civilizations holding their breath. Ambassador, he said carefully. I must ask, and I ask this not as an adversary, but as someone who is responsible for the stability of 400 member civilizations, what exactly are the limits of human military capability? Darian looked at him for a long moment. That, he said, is a very good question. And I'll tell you exactly what I told my own government when they asked me what to say if someone at this council raised it. He picked up his thermos again. We don't know. Kael'zer blinked. Both sets of eyelids. You don't know? We've never had to find out, Darian said simply. Every conflict we've encountered since reaching the stars has been resolved before we hit a ceiling. We keep building. We keep improving. We haven't found the ceiling yet. He shrugged, a gesture that somehow translated perfectly across every species in the room. We're curious about it too, honestly. But we'd rather not run the experiment. A long silence. Then, from somewhere in the upper rows, a delegate from a species so ancient they communicated only in mathematical sequences, came a single transmitted phrase. The translator rendered it in flat, neutral tones, but every being in the chamber heard the weight beneath it. Why did no one warn us about the humans? Darian looked up toward the source of the question. A small, tired smile crossed his face. Someone probably tried, he said. We have a habit of being underestimated. Even our own historians argue about when we stopped being prey and started being something else. He stood, buttoning his jacket with the easy, unhurried movements of a man who had somewhere to be. I want to be clear, Earth has no territorial ambitions. We don't want your planets. We don't want your resources. We don't want to govern anyone. He looked directly at Kael'zer. We want to trade. We want to explore. We want to talk to other species and eat strange food and learn things we didn't know before. He picked up his thermos. But if someone hits one of our colonies on a Tuesday again, he said, we would very much appreciate it if the Galactic Council didn't get in the way. He nodded once to the High Chancellor, turned, and walked toward the exit. 700 delegates watched him go. Not one of them spoke. At the dais, Kael'zer remained perfectly still for a very long time. Then he turned to his senior aide, a creature of 30 years of diplomatic service who had never once asked a foolish question, and said quietly, pull every file we have on the Dravak Dominion. Cross-reference their military assessments with what we know about the humans. He paused. And find out which other civilizations have made aggressive contact with Earth territory. The aide hesitated. And if we find some, Chancellor? Kael'zer watched the door through which Ambassador Darian Voss had disappeared. The human had not looked back once. Warn them, he said. Quickly. Outside the council chamber, in a corridor of polished silver stone, Darian Voss finished the last of his coffee, screwed the cap back onto his thermos, and sent a short encrypted message back to Earth. It read, "Meeting went fine. Starting trade negotiations next week. Also, they're scared of us now. Try not to make it worse." He thought about it for a moment, then added, "Love to everyone. Bring better coffee next time I come home." Then he put the tablet away, straightened his jacket, and went to meet whatever came next.